All right, guys, it is time for my power rankings. Now, for my power rankings, I don't like to give them out every week like everybody else does talking on YouTube. I like to give them out every couple or few weeks because then you get to see who are the pretenders and who are the contenders. Are they in a winning streak, a losing streak? Is there any injuries? Is there any controversy in the locker room? You get to see that when you wait just a little bit. Just like with my Fool's Gold list, I like to wait a couple of few weeks and then you get to see if these teams are pretenders or contenders, like I said. But let's get to it. There's already, I think we see who are the best teams who are going to probably take a good shot at the Super Bowl and who teams are probably going to make the playoffs, but they're probably not going to do nothing as soon as they get in the playoffs. So let's get to it. I think there's the first three teams I'm going to give you are interchangeable. I don't know who number 10, 9, and 8, who's really going to be there at the end of the season. I think that's very interchangeable. But the top 5 teams, I think we have a good idea who are going to be there at the end of the season. So let's get to it, my power rankings. And for the first team on my list, the number 10 team, I didn't know who to pick. I was juggling a lot of teams. Let's go through the teams I was juggling before we talk about the team I landed on, okay? And one of the first teams I thought that could have been number 10 is the Commanders. Now, I was thinking about putting number 10, but then when I digged in it a little deeper, the Commanders, they haven't been one team with a winning record. And their starting wide receiver, Noah Brown, the second starter, after Scary Terry, he's out for the year. So does that strike any confidence in you guys? Austin Eckler, he's on the IR. Noah Brown, he's done for the season. And they have lost 3 out of the last 4 games. And they haven't been a team with a winning record yet this season. So does that strike any confidence in anybody so that they could be on any top 10 list? Does it strike any confidence in any Commanders fans? Do you guys think they're going to win a playoff game? I don't think so. So the Commanders did not make it a number 10. Let's talk about the Chargers. Okay? The Chargers, they have a pitiful offense. I don't care what anybody says. I know McConkey has stepped it up, the wide receiver, but he's banged up. He didn't even play that Chiefs game, I believe. J.K. Dobbins, he's out for he's on the IR, so he's out for a few weeks. Okay, so this offense looks pitiful. All right, and they only being one team with a winning record. So I'm sorry, the Chargers, I'm not confident in them. They don't think they should be in the any top 10 team as well. Another team I thought putting at number 10 in my power rankings is the Houston Texans. But again, when you look into the Houston Texans, they're number 1 in their division. They're 8-5. But they only beaten one team with a winning record. They beat the Buffalo Bills. They haven't beat any other good teams. Now, is that a good win? Yes, because I believe the Bills are a Super Bowl contending team. But they only have one win against a winning team. That's pitiful. They lost to the Vikings, they lost to the Packers, they lost to the Lions, and they lost to the Titans. So does that strike any confidence? Should they be in anybody's top 10 teams? No, I don't think so. Don't forget, Diggs is out for the year. All they have is Mixon and Nico Collins as weapons. And their offensive line is terrible. I believe Stroud's a top 4, top 3 sacked quarterback in this league. But remember, they only be in one team with a winning record. I'm sorry, Texans, you don't deserve to be in anybody's top 10 team. And the team I landed on to be number 10 in my power rankings, the Seattle Seahawks. They had some solid wins. They beat an Arizona team when everybody was praising the Arizona team as being the hot team. Arizona was the number 1 team in the NFC South, so they beat the first team in their division twice, and then they beat the 49ers. And the 49ers, they still had weapons surrounding Purdy. They had Jennings, they have Debo, and they have Kittle. So it's not like, the 49ers are beat up, but they still had a lot of weapons, and the Seattle Seahawks beat them. So the Seahawks are looking good. But the only thing I have against the Seahawks is that the rushing attack, it needs to be better. Zach Charbonnet did look good against the Cardinals last week, but they need to pick it up. You have Walker, Zach Charbonnet, and you have one of the bottom 10 rushing offenses in the league. Come on. And then Geno, you need to see more from Geno Smith. He has 14 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. When you have that receiving core and Metcalf, Lockett, and Smith, you think that he'd have more touchdowns. You think he'd have 20 touchdowns by now, okay? But no, he has 14 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So that is not a good look. But they have solid wins. They're on a winning streak right now, and they have good wins against their division opponents, and their defense is actually looking better. So I like the Seattle Seahawks, as my number 10 team. I only have the Broncos at number 9 because they have a really great defense and they have put up a lot of points in the last 3 games, and they're on a 3-game winning streak. During this 3-game winning streak, they have scored 108 points. Now you're saying, well, hey, the Chargers, they have a great defense just like the Broncos. Yeah, but the Chargers are not on a 3-game winning streak, okay? They just lost to the Chiefs. So I trust the Broncos. I know the Chargers beat the Broncos, but right now, the Broncos are on a 3-game winning streak. They beat the Falcons, they beat the Raiders, and they beat the Browns, and they put a lot of points up. I don't trust the Broncos to win one game in the playoffs. I don't trust the number 10 team on power rankings to win any playoff games. But right now, because the Broncos are in a 3-game winning streak, they're putting up a lot of points in that winning streak. I got them as number 9. And my number 8 team, I have the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, I know they lost 2 out of the 3, but those 2 games they lost against the Steelers and the Eagles, they were decided by a touchdown or less, 6 points or less, actually. So, they're in those games till the end, and they still have this great offense. They have an elite offense with weapons everywhere. Mark Andrews and Likely, great tight end duo. Zay Flowers and Bateman, maybe Deontay Johnson, him getting suspended, maybe it lights a fire in him and he comes and plays. So they still have a good core. Oh, and yeah, don't forget, they have King Henry and Hill as a good backup. So they have a good offense, a great offense, one of the best offenses in the league. Their defense sucks, their secondary in particular, I know, but they have a good rush defense. So I like Ravens at number 8, and I think the Baltimore Ravens would beat any of the 9 and number 10 teams on my power rankings. And the 7th ranked team in my power rankings, a team I want to break down a bit, is the Green Bay Packers. Let's talk about the Packers. I keep on hearing from everybody that the Packers are a dangerous team. You better watch out for the Packers. Come playoffs, they might just railroad everybody and make it to the Super Bowl. I ask you, when are we going to see it from the Packers? When? Their best team they ever beat is the Houston Texans, and they beat the Texans by 2 points, and that was without Nico Collins. After that, think to yourself, Packer fans or anybody, who is the Packers' next best win? Okay, maybe it's against the Rams. The Rams were without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. The best weapons, arguably one of the best wide receiver duos in the whole NFL, both those guys were out that game. So Packer fans, you think that's a good win? You only won that game by 5 points, and Matthew Stafford was thrown to nobodies. He's thrown to Tutu Atwell, okay? So what's the next best win after that? You would say, oh, it's the 49ers. The 49ers the best win. The 49ers were playing with a backup quarterback, a terrible backup quarterback, and I think it's Beau Allen, whatever his name was, Brent Allen? I don't know what it was. He was a terrible backup quarterback. The Packers blew him out. Is that something you want to brag about, 49ers fans? Packer fans? I wouldn't. So tell me, when are we going to see it from the Packers? When are we going to see this great, dangerous team? They lost to the Eagles, the Vikings, and twice to the Lions. So when are we going to see it? They lost to all the top tier teams. So Packer fans, don't be surprised. You heard it here. Don't be surprised that you guys are one and done in the playoffs, because I keep on hearing they're the very dangerous team, blah, 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 blah. Well, when am I going to see it? They haven't been one of the great teams. Not yet. They beat the Texans, a team that has a terrible offensive line, and they were without their starter wide receiver for that game, and you only won by 2 points. So please tell me, Packer fans, when am I going to see it from you guys, okay? But right now, do you deserve to be in the top 10? Sure, but I also want to be surprised if you guys are one and done in the playoffs. But for right now, the Packers are ranked number 7th in my power rankings, but I wouldn't be surprised that they're out of the top 10 and out of the playoffs the first game. And the 6th ranked team in my power rankings, who I actually thought about putting in my top 5, who I think could possibly beat the number 5 team in my rankings, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Steelers, they have a great defense. They have a bunch of weapons on defense, so we don't have to go over them. They look great since implementing Wilson at quarterback, okay? Harris is having a good second half of the season. I was not a Najee Harris fan at running back. I thought he was going to be terrible, but he's actually stepped up his game. He looks good. And they have George Pickens, and they have solid wins. They have wins against the Ravens, the Commanders, the Chargers, and the Broncos. So they have some good, solid wins. They have a brutal schedule coming up, so we'll see how really great they are. They play against the Eagles this week, the Ravens, and the Chiefs the next 3 games. So we'll see how tough the Steelers are. But I think, the Steelers can actually, beat the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think the Chiefs are, they're not that as great as everybody thinks they are. But right now I got them as number 6 on my power rankings. The only thing I don't like about them is that after Pickens, and they really don't have any weapons outside Pickens and Harris. And I know I said I just like Harris is doing great in the second half of the season. I still don't think he's one of the premier backs a lot of people are scared of, okay? So if they lose Pickens, I know he's hurt right now. I'm not really confident they can make a deep run in the playoffs. So they need Pickens healthy, and they need that defense roaring. But right now, they're doing great, so I like them as number 6. And the 5th ranked team in my power rankings is the Chiefs. Now, I'm probably going to get a lot of heat from the Chiefs fans, but I did a good breakdown why I think the Chiefs are a bit fool's gold. A little bit of fool's gold, okay? Because they're possibly the worst 12-1 team in NFL history. Now, 12-1, how can it be that bad? Well, they have the worst point differential from any 12-1 team, okay? So don't go be so high on the Chiefs. They are skating on thin ice in every win they've had lately. They beat the Chargers by 2 points. They beat the Raiders by 2 points. They beat the Panthers by 3 points. And they beat the Broncos by 2 points. And they needed to take the Buccaneers in overtime to win it by 6 points. And the Buccaneers were without their offensive weapons, okay? They were without Mike Evans and Godwin, okay? So I'm not impressed by any of the wins they've had recently. They do have some good wins against the Chargers and against the Broncos and the Ravens in the first game of the season. But after that, I'm not impressed of the wins recently, okay? If you want to get a better breakdown of why I think the Chiefs are, people should pump the brakes on them a bit, watch my video on them, and you guys decide for yourself. But right now, I got them number 5, but I wouldn't be surprised after they play the Texans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll see. We'll have a good more, assumption of them. And for my 4th ranked team is the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are on a 6-game winning streak. Now, that 6-game winning streak, the only really team worth anything is the Cardinals. The Colts, they're below average and they're trying to fight for the playoffs, but there's most likely they're not going to make the playoffs. But they only lost 2 points to the Lions. They beat the Green Bay Packers, they beat the Texans, and they beat the 49ers when the 49ers were almost completely healthy, okay? But they're on a 6-game winning streak, and also Sam Darnold looks really great. In the last 5 games, Sam Darnold has thrown for 11 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, and 1,399 yards. That is pretty damn good. Let's don't forget, they have Justin Jefferson, Addison. Addison's been killing it lately. TJ Hawkinson and Jones. So they have weapons galore. And they get after the quarterback. They're one of the best teams at sacking the quarterback, which means a lot in the playoffs. The only thing is their secondary. The secondary is not so great. But right now, they are rolling. But most of all, I have them at number 4 is because of their weapons and Sam Darnold having a great 6-game, doing great in the last 5 games. So with that, I like the Vikings at number 4. And my number 3 team is the Buffalo Bills. Now, I want to pump the brakes on the Bills a little bit. They just lost the Rams. That was a high-scoring game. Over 80 points scored. The Rams dropped 44 on them, okay? But I think that kind of shows what the problem with the Bills are. The Bills haven't been really that battle-tested. They have a great win against the Chiefs. That's their best win. Their second best win is against the Seahawks, okay? So 2 good, solid wins. But then they have losses against the Ravens and the Texans and now the Rams. So I have to see the Bills to be more battle-tested. The wins against the Jets, the Titans, the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, and the Colts are garbage wins, okay? And the 49ers, okay? That was a snowball game. The 49ers were depleted like hell on defense in particular. So I don't like that win either. But so I think the Bills, I think people need to pump the brakes. They're getting a lot of hype, okay? So they're going to be tested. We're going to see what they're really worth when they play against the Lions this week. Now the Lions are really depleted on defense too, so I want to hear no excuses. They should, be able to win this game. I know it's a 50-50 game basically, but the Bills need to show me that they are one of the best teams in the NFL. Because to be honest with you, I have the Steelers at number 6, but I can see the Steelers beating the Bills at number 3 because the Bills, like I said, they have the 20th ranked rush defense. You know, their weapons are not so great. They're good, above average. Cooper hasn't really shown anything since he's been traded there. Coleman's been hurt. Now he might come back for the Detroit Lions game, but do you really like Coleman and Shazier, the other wide receivers? I think those guys are probably year to 2 years to being really good or great. So their offense really all rounds Josh Allen being Superman, and I don't like that. Cook is doing good, don't get me wrong, but you know, it's Josh Allen and that offensive line. They're keeping him clean. So I like the Bills at number 3. I think they need to be battle tested a little bit more, and they will be battle tested against the Lions. And if they lose the Lions, they're definitely definitely going out the top 5 for me. So right now, I like the Bills at 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if they fall out of the top 5 in my power rankings. And for my second ranked team, and my number 1 team and number 2 teams, I actually think they're the 2 best teams in the NFL. It's 1A and 1B. I think they're the same level, okay? But for this purposes, my number 2 team is the Detroit Lions. And I know what you're saying. Whoa, Detroit Lions, they're on a 10, 11 game winning streak. But for right now, because how hurt they're on defense, they are depleted on the linebackers, and I do not like their secondary whatsoever, okay? And they have a hard time getting after the quarterback, okay? They have a lead offense, or I understand that, and they're on this big winning streak. But because of the injuries on defense, I have them at number 2. Now, they pitched 34 against the Packers. They win it by 3 points. They barely beat the Bears. They almost dropped the ball in that one. The Bears almost came back and win it, but the Bears, they messed that up as usual. But, they blew out the Colts. They blew out the Jaguars. They barely beat the Texans by a field goal, and then they beat the Packers by 10 points. But the Packers were banged out, especially Jordan Love in that game too. So they have great wins. They beat the Rams in the first game of the season as well by 6 points, and their offense is really great. But this is more about that their defense is injured right now. But they play the Buffalo Bills. If they beat the Bills with all the injuries they have, I would definitely have them number 1. But right now, because they're just a little beat up on defense, I think they're just a tad worse than my number 1 team. And my number 1 team in my power rankings is my Philadelphia Eagles. That's right. I don't care if you think it's a homer pick. I believe they're the best team in the NFL. Now I know what you're saying. What? The Panthers? They just barely beat the Panthers. Well, the Panthers took the Kansas City Chiefs towards the end, and the Panthers been playing great the last 3 or 4 games. Besides that, the last 4 wins, the 3 of the last 4 wins the Eagles have, 3 of those teams all are probably going to make the playoffs. The Commanders right now are in a wild card spot. The Rams are 1 game from winning their division, and the Rams just beat Buffalo. They just put 44 points against the Buffalo Bills, and they beat the Ravens, okay? So I don't want to hear, the Panthers, they barely beat the Panthers. They just beat 3 teams that are probably going to make the playoffs or have a good chance to make the playoffs. 2 of those teams are going to make the playoffs for sure, okay? So I don't want to hear that. The number 1 ranked rushing offense, the number 1 ranked defense. They're in the top 6 or top 5 for sure in sacks, getting after the quarterback, okay? So I don't want to hear that whatsoever. Their 2 corners, DeJean and Mitchell, they're one of the best cornerback duos in the whole NFL. So it's another thing I don't want to hear. And one thing I don't want to hear anymore, and it's only been a couple of days already, is the controversy between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. It's a nothing burger that's being riled up by the media, okay? Yes, Brandon Graham, the defensive end from the Philadelphia Eagles, he should have said something, and he took it back. He said he doesn't really know the dynamic of their relationship. But he said something, and that's why it lit a fire. And when you give the Philadelphia media any fire, any gasoline to throw on the fire, they'll throw gallons on it because the Philadelphia media is so toxic. They love drama and starting controversy, okay? So this is a nothing burger that the media is just boiling up, okay? If you listen to ex-players, who are now NFL analysts, they say these little arguments or these little, I don't know what you want to call them, okay? The controversies, they happen all the time behind locker room doors. They just don't get a lot of media attention. It's just one player opened his mouth because he likes to be on radio all the damn time, Brandon Graham, and he accidentally spilled something out. And now everybody's running it with national media and the local media in Philadelphia. So don't buy it. I'm not buying it. Once they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I think they will, it will be nothing. It'll be water underneath the bridge. So I'm not buying this controversy with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Like I said, it's a nothing burger. But my number one ranked team in my power rankings is the Philadelphia Eagles for all the reasons I said before. They are battle tested and they have great weapons, the best roster in all of the NFL. Well, guys, those are my power rankings as we go into week 15 in the NFL, and it is flying past. I swear it was week 4 just a week ago. You know what I mean? But, it's coming quick, and now we're seeing who the true Super Bowl contenders are and who are bitter pretenders, but they're still make the top 10 teams. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. It goes a long way for me. It costs you guys nothing. As always, I'm putting in my week 15 NFL picks tomorrow, Thursday, or Friday. But so keep an eye out for that. Don't forget my Thursday night football games, my Monday night football games. I put those on my TikToks and my YouTube shorts. So keep an eye on that as well. And as TikTok is probably going to get banned, please go on my Instagram account and follow that as well for my picks that'll be coming after the ban. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. And like I said, like, subscribe. Tell me who your power rankings are. Tell me if you think my power rankings are insane. I need to stop drinking or whatever. But with that, guys, thank you. And I will always see you in the next one.